Hey there, my friends. Pull up a seat, grab your emotional support snack, and let me tell you a little story about trust, betrayal, and the kind of support that comes with a silent side eye.
And let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever shared great news with your friends and felt this tiny, suspicious little shiver crawl down your spine? Like, why do their smiles look rehearsed? Yeah, that. Stick around till the end, because today I'm exposing how my dream job turned into a cautionary tale about the people you keep closest. And before we dive in, you already know the drill. Like the video, subscribe, drop a comment later, and share this with that one friend you're not totally sure about. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The dream begins. So picture this: after weeks locked in hyper-focused goblin mode, she finally finished building the perfect application for the job she had always wanted. Not just any job, I mean the kind of job that feels like the universe finally stopped messing around and decided to hand you something meaningful for once. She updated her portfolio, rewrote her resume more times than a director's cut, triple-checked every detail, and whispered a little prayer to whatever cosmic Wi-Fi controls luck. And then, one random Tuesday morning, her email pinged with a message that made her heart literally skip. The company wanted to interview her. She stared at the screen like it was a hallucination sponsored by sleep deprivation. But no, it was real. An actual invitation to step into the life she'd been working toward for years. Of course, in her excitement, she made the classic mistake she told her friends. And, my friends, that's where the trouble begins. Their reactions came in hot, like, way too hot. Over-the-top excitement. Dramatic OMG, you deserve this. And encouraging gifs pulled straight from the first page of Google. It all looked sweet on the surface, almost too sweet. But she didn't see it. Not yet. When you're happy, you don't question the applause. Over the next few days, her friend group practically formed a let's prepare her task force. Late-night calls, mock interviews, endless suggestions, motivational speeches from people who never had a job longer than 6 months. It was intense. And she felt supported, truly supported, wrapped in this warm, cozy blanket of friendship, like she had her own hype squad. But then came the first red flags, subtle, soft, almost polite. Little comments that didn't quite match the vibe. Advice that felt off. Suggestions that sounded harmless, but scratched at her instincts in a way she couldn't quite name. One friend told her not to sound too ambitious. Another suggested she should tone down her portfolio so she wouldn't intimidate the hiring team. And then came the wardrobe advice: don't overdress. You don't want to look like you're trying too hard. She laughed it off, still trusting them, still believing it was all love and support. But, my friend, sometimes the snake doesn't hiss. Sometimes it compliments your shoes. She didn't know it yet, but every little piece of advice, every tiny comment was a string being pulled. And she was walking straight into a trap built with smiles and fake encouragement. The interview day was getting closer. Her nerves were building. Her support system was getting strangely insistent. And her gut? Her gut was whispering, hey, something's not right. But she didn't listen. Not yet. The night before the interview, she sat on her bed surrounded by sticky notes, coffee cups, and the kind of anxiety that makes you temporarily forget how to breathe correctly. She kept replaying her friend's advice in her head, trying to convince herself it all made sense. But some things just didn't. One friend had told her, don't talk too much about your achievements, it can come off as braggy. Another insisted, let the interviewer lead everything, don't show too much initiative. And the third, with a guilty little giggle, said, don't be too put together. People like candidates who feel safe. Safe. The word tasted weird in her mouth. But again, she brushed it off. Because when you're stressed, you cling to whatever looks like guidance, even if it's coming from people who can't keep their own lives together without Google reminders. The morning of the interview arrived. She put on the outfit they suggested, casual, but not too casual, which basically made her look like she was going to a brunch where avocado toast costs $24. She didn't feel confident, but she tried to push that feeling away. When she walked into the interview room, the energy hit her instantly. It wasn't warm. It wasn't inviting. It was observant. Evaluating. The kind of silence that makes you check if your shirt is inside out. She sat down, smiled, and waited for the questions. And that's when everything started falling apart. The first question was simple. Tell us about yourself. Easy, right? Shed practiced this 1,000 times before her friends edited her entire personality. So instead of talking about her experience, her strengths, her passion, she gave this watered-down, hesitant, lukewarm version of herself. A version built from 3 different helpful opinions that never matched. The interviewers looked confused. She felt confused. It was a beautiful disaster, honestly. Then came the killer question. What are your long-term career goals? She remembered her friend's advice don't sound ambitious, so she told them she preferred to keep things slow, wasn't looking to lead anything big, and didn't want too much responsibility. The silence afterward? Oh, my friends, it could have frozen boiling water. She watched the interviewer's face shift from interest to pure disappointment. And in that exact second, she knew. She knew something had gone horribly wrong. But she tried to push through. Tried to salvage it. Tried to be the person they advised her to be, which basically meant acting like a lamp with imposter syndrome. Every answer spiraled worse than the last. Every sentence felt disconnected from who she really was. Every moment felt like she was watching herself drown, but in slow motion. By the time she walked out of that building, she already knew she didn't get the job. Her friends, of course, told her she was being dramatic. Don't worry. You did amazing. Interviews are weird for everyone. You're overthinking. But deep inside, something twisted. Something pulled tight. Something whispered. What if they didn't want you to succeed? And my friends, once that thought enters your mind, it doesn't leave. Not easily. Not ever. She didn't have proof yet. But the feeling? Oh, it was growing. Fast. For the next couple of days, she kept trying to convince herself she was imagining things. You know that mental gymnastics routine we all do? The one where you're like, maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe the interview wasn't that bad. But, my friend, sometimes your intuition isn't being dramatic. Sometimes it's just telling you the truth nobody else wants to say out loud. Her friends kept sending cute messages like, "You did great. They'd be stupid not to hire you. Don't beat yourself up." And she really tried to believe them. But then the universe said, "Oh, sweetie, let me help you out real quick." Because one afternoon, while she was checking her email, she received a message that wasn't meant for her. A message from one of her friends. A message that hit her so hard, she actually stopped breathing for a second. It was clearly part of a group chat thread, their group chat, but somehow, by a glorious act of accidental honesty, one of them forwarded it to her instead of the intended friend. And in that message, she saw everything. They were joking about how easy it had been to soft sabotage her. How she really believes everything we say, lol. How no way she gets the job after that advice. And the worst part? One of them said, "If she gets this job, she'll be ahead of all of us." Nope. Not happening. My friends, when I tell you her soul left her body, she read that message again. And again. And again. Each time feeling something inside her crack in a way that wasn't loud, it was quiet. Dangerously quiet. Her hands shook. Her stomach dropped. Her cheeks went hot, that burning hot humiliation that you feel when the betrayal is so clean, so deliberate, so intentional that you almost admire the commitment. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't jealousy slipping through in a moment of weakness. This was sabotage. Planned. Delivered. Executed with a smile. For a while she just sat there, staring at the screen like it was a crime scene. And in a way, it was the death of a friendship, the burial of trust, the autopsy of everything she thought she knew about these people. Her mind replayed every moment, every tip, every correction, every weird comment. Every time one of them insisted, she toned down her skills. It all made chilling, perfect sense now. And the worst part? They didn't expect her to find out. They didn't even consider the possibility she'd ever know. That's how confident they were in her loyalty, her softness, her trust. But the moment she read that message, she wasn't soft anymore. She wasn't naive. She wasn't the same version of herself they thought they could manipulate. She didn't confront them, not immediately. Because when you're hit with betrayal that deep, you don't explode. You shut down. You go silent. You observe. She simply stopped replying,
Close the chat.
put her phone down, and allowed the heartbreak to hit in full. Because yes, she was angry, but beneath the anger lived a grief she didn't expect. Not grief for the job. Grief for the friendships she thought were real. Mis amigos, my friends, sometimes the most painful breakup isn't romantic. Sometimes it's realizing the people you called your circle were actually your cage. The following days felt gray. Not dramatic, thunderstorm gray, but the quiet, heavy kind, the one that sits on your chest and just stays there. She woke up with her mind spinning, replaying every conversation she'd ever had with those friends. Suddenly the jokes, the backhanded compliments, the weird pauses when she talked about her dreams, all of it clicked into place like a puzzle she never wanted to finish. It was humiliating, honestly, realizing she'd been cheering for people who never clapped for her. People she defended.
People she trusted.
People she thought would celebrate her wins, not sabotage them. And my friend's betrayal doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with a quiet, dull ache that follows you around the house, sits at the table with you, stands behind you while you brush your teeth. She went through the motions of her day, like someone walking underwater. Made coffee. Opened her laptop. Stared at job listings.
Closed them again.
Not because she didn't want to try, but because she felt like someone had knocked the wind out of her. But in that stillness, something unexpected began to form. A realization. She didn't miss them. She missed the version of herself who thought they cared. And once she understood that difference, the healing actually began. So she started cleaning house, not literally, though that came later, but emotionally. She deleted the messages, archived the group chat, removed their birthdays from her calendar. Not with anger, but with this slow, calm acceptance. Because she finally understood losing them wasn't a loss. It was a release. Her world got quieter without their noise. And in that quiet, she finally heard herself again. It didn't happen overnight, but one morning, she opened her laptop and felt something shift. A flicker of motivation.
A spark.
Like her ambition had been sitting in the corner, waiting for her to stop crying and pull herself together. So she updated her resume properly this time, reworked her portfolio confidently this time, and started applying for jobs again privately this time. No announcements. No group chats. No unsolicited advice. Just her goals, and her peace. And let me tell you something, my friends. Silence hits different when it's protecting you. Around this time, she also began noticing small things she'd ignored for years. Like how she used to shrink her accomplishments to avoid making those friends uncomfortable. Or how she always held back her real goals because she didn't want to look too ambitious. Or how she apologized constantly for simply wanting more.
But now?
She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. Freedom to want big things. Freedom to pursue them without guilt. Freedom to not dim her light so others could feel tall. And, oh, my friends, that kind of freedom tastes like oxygen. She was still hurt, yes. Still grieving what she thought those friendships were. But she was also growing, slowly, steadily, beautifully. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just choosing yourself again and again until it sticks. With time, the pain softened. Not because it disappeared, but because she finally understood it. You can't walk through betrayal without learning something about others, sure, but mostly about yourself. And one of the first lessons she learned was this. Trust isn't the problem. Misplacing it is. It wasn't her fault for believing in her friends. It wasn't her fault for wanting to share her joy. It wasn't her fault for assuming the people closest to her wanted to see her win. But it was her responsibility to notice who clapped differently when she succeeded. She looked back with a mixture of sadness and clarity. Sadness because she lost something she thought was real, and clarity because now she finally understood the difference between support and surveillance disguised as friendship. She learned to spot the quiet envy, the disguised competition, the advice that doesn't actually help you, but keeps you conveniently small. She learned to pay attention to tone, to energy, to the subtle shift in someone's eyes when you tell them good news. Most importantly, she learned that protecting your dreams isn't selfish, it's necessary. So she made herself a promise. No more oversharing. No more handing out pieces of her goals to people who haven't earned that access. No more shrinking her brilliance because someone else feels insecure in the shade it casts. And my friends, once she embraced that, her confidence came back stronger than ever. A few weeks later, she found a new job listing, one that somehow matched her skills even better than the original dream job. And this time, she didn't ask for advice, didn't crowdsource opinions, didn't form a support group with people who secretly hoped she'd fail. She trusted herself, prepared by herself, walked into that interview as herself, ambitious, capable, confident, unapologetic. And she nailed it. When the acceptance email arrived, she didn't send it to anyone. She sat alone in her kitchen, smiling to herself, letting the moment be hers, really hers, for the first time in a long time. Success feels different when nobody else is trying to steal it from you. And now, as she moves forward, she carries the lesson gently but firmly. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Some people can barely handle their own show. She isn't bitter, just wiser. She isn't scared, just more selective. She isn't broken, just rebuilt in a way that protects her better than before. And now, my friends, I want to know something from you. Have you ever celebrated something and felt the wrong person flinch? Have you ever shared a dream with someone who didn't deserve to hear it? Have you ever trusted a friend who turned out to be the villain in your story? Tell me in the comments, because trust me, you're not alone. And your stories? Someone out there needs to hear them.